Welcome back to another episode of the Innovate on Purpose podcast, hosted by Matt Mueller,
best-selling author of The Mindful Innovator and Rethink Retail's top retail expert.
We help retail leaders find clarity so they can grow their businesses purposefully.
We will uncover mindful tips, innovative solutions, and purposeful leadership advice and strategies that you can apply immediately to your retail innovation. Are you ready to innovate on purpose?
Hey, before we jump into the episode today, I just wanted to say thank you for hitting the play button. You being here fires me up, and I cannot wait to share with you the insights that are going to make a difference in your business. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and leave a review so I can reach as many retail leaders as possible. They too need to hear this. Okay, let's do it. Hello and welcome to another episode of Innovate on Purpose, brought to you by The Mindful Innovator, where we talk about CPG and retail and innovation and how we can evolve to meet consumer needs of the future and beat the competition. Today, I have an amazing guest here who I had the pleasure of meeting just last week, and we're quickly here on a podcast. We today have Anes Ahmed from Hershey Canada, with over 14 years of experience in strategy, insights, and business development in top-tier CPG companies. Beyond Hershey, he has worked for powerhouses like Pepsi and Nestle and a few others, and he helps solve the complex retail challenges across North America, the Middle East, and South Asia. And today, we're going to dig deep into what does innovation look like when you are talking about global scale, about taking insights and products from one region and moving them to another. It can't be just cookie cutter. You have to figure out how does it actually fit within this market. And Anes is going to help us really break that down and give us some really great mindful tips on how we can be better innovators. So Anes, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thanks, Matt, for having me.
Awesome. Well, before we get into into these topics real deep, I'd love just for you to give a brief overview of your work history, what you're all about, and why the folks here need to just get their books open and sharpen their pencils.
Well, I come with years of experience in the CPG space. I've been in the sales side of things, started my career in account management in Pakistan, which is a very different market for the one which I'm in right now. Lots and lots of high-frequency stores, small stores, pork shops. Retail is defined by wholesale lots. So I started with them. I have been out of the country since 2010. I worked for a while in Bahrain, in the same organization as I was working in Pakistan, which is a global, not so much global, like a regional powerhouse in distribution logistics. Their mainstay client is Procter & Gamble. So I was with the P&G business for a long time. And then I moved to Pepsi as well in key accounts management. But since the last 10 years, I've been working in category management. And frankly, when I was starting off in category management, I did not really appreciate how deep this discipline is and what all you can do with it. It's been 10 years in this space. I've worked with Nestle. I've worked with Johnson & Johnson Consumer Health, which is now known as Kenvue. And since 3 years, I've been with Hershey, working with retailers, defining how they can grow the snacking business. So really love what I do, and I'm glad that we have an opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, me as well. And I think just to even add to that, there's a nice amount of different brands on there. So a lot of different viewpoints from different large scale global brands, but also like just the market, how many different markets you have touched, right? So where it's like you mentioned to me, like how you've worked within the Middle East and North America and South Asia as well. So not only are we going to get a great perspective from multiple brands here, but I just love the fact that you're thinking about this from a global point of view and a regional point of view rather than just, one viewpoint, right? Awesome. So I guess tell me, like, how do markets vary? And can you tell us about a particular case study of where cookie cutter doesn't work, right? Like one instance of this or several if you have, and just curious kind of, how has to try to move one product from one market to another?
Yeah. So markets differ in ways that the consumer and shopper differs in each market, right? Every market has their own culture, has their own infrastructure, has the unique way of people spending money and going to the stores in their neighborhoods or to the big box stores, as we call it in North America. So there's so many ways that we can talk about, like, how people want to be communicated with, how people want to be interacting with the product they're purchasing in the store, which channel that they want to go to, right? So one of the examples that comes to my mind is quick commerce. Back in South Asia and Middle East, quick commerce is a big thing, and there's a lot of startup activity happening around that. In North America, not so much, right? So we've got Instacart, we've got Uber, Corner Shop, but beyond that, not much going on there. And then I don't think it's become a part of our habit to shop with 3P e-commerce players. So that is one way of looking at it. Then culture is a big thing. People have got their own preferences when it comes to, let's say, hot drinks. Is it a tea drinking country? Is it a coffee drinking country? Like, we take for granted that coffee shop is a mainstay over here, but like from my time in Nestle, we were dealing with tea and how big those four sets were for tea, just like raw tea, dry tea being sitting on the shelf, being shopped around. And the challenge that we were facing was that how do we make coffee culture a big thing in this market, right? In Saudi Arabia. So there are so many different ways that we can talk about. Infrastructure is being one, like cities being constructed close together. What is the what's the availability of health looking like? Because one of the things that we might talk about, why has e-commerce or quick commerce not taken hold in North America, could go back to how expensive it is to hire people who can do the job for us. But in certain markets, like the ones that I just referred to, it is not that expensive, and they have been they have had a good go at it, and it also speaks to the convenience and lifestyle that people desire. So many things that I can talk about. So I'm sorry, I cannot give you like one answer, but there can be so many answers that I can give to that question. But I would love to share examples on how does that go about.
Yeah, please. Like, what's like the first example that comes to mind to you?
Yeah. So one of the examples that comes to my mind is about coffee, right? Let's start over there, right? So when I was with Nestle, Nescafe was a big, big business. And we were a Swiss company coming from Europe with a very long tradition of coffee innovation. I'm talking about this is about freeze-dried coffee, or sorry, dried coffee or instant coffee as you call it, but all the way to Nespresso and the Nescafe Dolce Gusto, right? And some of our retailers are still hanging on to tea as a big thing because in Saudi Arabia, a lot of people drink tea and they drink tea much more than they drink coffee. So our challenge was how do we convert people? What was that? Could be that pivot that we can use to bring people into the coffee drinking world. And there were some innovations that I would love to chat about, right? So there was this brand called Kif al Musafir, which is referring to the specifically unique Arabic coffee that people drink over there, and that was turned into instant coffee. So while the time I was there was a lot of work in order to sample that, in order to create that relevance of the branded Nescafe, of Nescafe to the local population, right? And that was one journey that I witnessed come to fruition during the time that I was there, starting with very low household penetration, going to healthy household penetrations. That was one example. And the other one that I really loved was about how do we not just migrate people from tea to coffee, but also to do at a very higher price point and a premium offering. And that's where another Nescafe offering called Dolce Gusto came into play. Dolce Gusto is, imagine it being an espresso, but with a lot of options and variations. You can create your own mocha, you can create your own latte. I don't think that uh, present in North America as such, but we've got similar examples and offerings from Keurig Pepper, right? So those in-house coffee shop experience was the one, and it was really great working on those strategies, convincing the retailers to get space to those machines, and converting the coffee sets in the hot drinking aisle all together by bringing in those bullet and gun strategy, selling the machines and then selling those capsules later. So those are some of the ways that we've seen market shake build on consumer preferences, consumer needs, and not just like shoving products down the throat of shoppers, right? That has
Yeah.
really worked, and I've seen that pay on so many occasions during my own days at Abu Dhabi, which is, as I mentioned before, regional distributor, and a big one at that, and yeah, one that has brought and introduced many brands into the Middle Eastern market.
No, that's definitely a very, I think, strategic approach that the way that you broke down Saudi Arabia, where it's like, all right, you knew that bringing a Nescafe or one of those pods that Nestle called Nespresso pods into the market was not going to just work, and you had to approach it a different way. So just to make sure I clarify, like you started off with like the in-house coffee shops as like your first line of adventure, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was more of catching on to the trends in the country, right? Like we were seeing the 2010s and the early 2000s. We had an amazing and coffee shop culture in Saudi Arabia. So there were some local coffee shops that were opening up. So the people were getting more in tune with the latte experience and the mochaccino experience. And coffee shops are becoming even beyond Starbucks. There were some local great coffee chains that were catching up, and they were opening up, and and young people were just going in and having that, right? So there was this realization or this appreciation amongst the consumers about, okay, I want to have my mocha. I just don't want to stick with tea. I want to move away with tea. I want to consume more of what the entire world is consuming outside of my country. That came from, years of opening up, interaction between, many students have left the country to go to the United States or Europe to study, come back. So that kind of like was a cultural transformation in progress since 50
Mhm.
years, right? So what that led to was a less importance or low importance of tea as a hot drink category. And then what we found out through the research was that consumers are looking for the coffee shop experience in-house. I mean, they are okay with driving to the next coffee shop, but they want it in the home, and they want to start the day with an espresso or a dolce gusto. And that's where the coffee shop experience idea in the house comes through, the dolce gusto, that you can create your mochas and your lattes yourself by these pods. So that was one step of premiumizing them, and I believe that that was one step that was done really well, with the communication being done in local languages, and driving the relevance to the local consumption behavior. And the other example that I gave you was about another specific niche product called Ifal Musafir, which was also an Nescafe sub-brand, but it was an instant mix that was creating the Arabic coffee. So the relevance, the consumer relevance, so you can create relevance to the consumer in more ways than one. So one
Yeah.
strategy is creating the in-house coffee experience. The other strategy is creating a unique product offering that you don't have anywhere else in the world, just specifically for that market, and then sampling it, through and through, and also creating those activations with the local football clubs or with the local festivals that can help create that relevance of your brand to your consumers. So that's another, like, it's not about introducing a new product into the market. It's about an organization or a company or a business taking that lead and redefining and understanding what my consumers really want, and then commercializing that by introducing a completely new product offering. I think that
Got
is
it.
an approach that has really worked with many of the companies that I've worked with. And on the other hand, there have been many failures as well, right? So I can think of one of those snacking brands that we introduced in Bahrain, imported from Australia. It's Tim Tam. I mean, we have it in some stores in North America, but it's big brand in Australia, and we just imported it, displayed it, didn't sell, and we had to, we had to eat it all back, and that resulted in
What brand was
huge
that?
losses. Tim Tam,
Oh,
it's
Tim.
a
Okay,
snack,
yes.
yeah. So it's a huge thing in Australia,
Mhm.
as you would know, and also we have got some relevance to it in North America. However, back in Bahrain, I mean, nobody cared, right? We just introduced it, we just created for displays, and then it never took off, and we had to take it all back. So I think that's where the opportunity or the challenge lies, right? Many brands want to start selling from the day one a product that they produce in another country, and they want to sell it in a different country without really doing a homework into it. Will it even work, and why will it work? What is that unique customer pain point or the shopper pain point that my product is gonna solve that others are not being able to do that. So those are some of those big questions that we need to ask, like, why are we doing this in the first place, right? So kind of like goes to how Nescafe did it is another great example of that's why you do it, because you want to convert the, a process of creating an Arabic coffee from a time consuming and a very lengthy process to something as easy as putting a mix in a cup and then drinking it, right? So that's the relevance over there.
Well, I mean, just you make me want to have an Arabic coffee. I mean, that's like one of my favorite things, and yeah, it does take a lot of time. So I feel the pain. It's like one of my favorite coffees is having a nice Arabic coffee, especially in the evening after dinner. It's a phenomenal product. But yeah, it's a great idea, just being able to do that in a very timely manner, and I could see that being something that's super relevant, of course, to that market, and something that's going to break through more than just, hey, here's an espresso. Yeah, I want to talk about Tim Tam a little bit more.
Yes, yeah,
So, like,
sure.
what was the thought process as far as importing Tim Tam to North America and saying that, oh, this makes total sense? Like, where was like the I guess the indicators for saying let's do this?
Yeah, a lot of the times how this gets done is that there are, distributors actually smell profit, right? Like, oh my God, this for the sports is very true in the Middle East. They're offering X percentage points and profit. Let's just get it in. Let's get the first few consignments, and we'll think about how to sell it, right? And then we'll see how that's done. And many of the brands are also like, okay, yeah, sure, I'm going to get access to a new market, and it's going to help me increase my sales by X percentage. Let's do it. What's the worst that can happen? Right. So that's like a pump and dump kind of a model that I was referring to, that we've been seeing a lot in new markets, especially ones that are still like, still have an appetite for more broader, offering in the stores. I think that's wrong on both ends, because you might be able to make a few good bucks in a year or two, but you don't have anything sustainable that's going to last you longer. So I feel that, brands that want to enter a new market need to understand the relevance of their product, if there's any with the local population, before making that move. And if they do decide to go into it, they just cannot, operate remotely from a certain area and not invest in the communication and the marketing in that population by being on the ground, right? So some of those examples that I've really seen that have stuck are like journeys that have been painstakingly been done over a course of years and have required many, many, many millions of dollars in order to make it work. And then they have stayed, right? Because you cannot really convince the people to buy your product just by having them available in store. You need to create a story behind it. People buy it, and one example that comes to my mind is the story of Kellogg's, right? So it's a big American brand. Everybody associates with cornflakes, right? And when I was, again, going back to Saudi Arabia, working on a different business this time, the cereal business, which is outside of North America, the whole General Mills business, when Nestle's first cereal partners worldwide. And it was very interesting because we had a great, share performance in the entire country. We had more than 50% share at that time for the country conflicts for Nestle. And then there was a specific region in the country where we were just like 30. And that was the eastern region where Saudi Aramco was established. And the story behind that was that when the Aramco was first set up, right, when the oil exploration began in that part of the world in the 50s and the 60s, the first brand that they got acquainted with was Kellogg's. And they had a name for it, which is not Kellogg's. They call it Abu Dik. Abu Dik is basically means the father of the rooster. So they had associated that with the rooster on the box, right? And that is still the name that goes on with it. And until the time I left, it was one of the markets that we were not able to crack, right? And that relevance, that story, that affinity still remains. So that is one way that brands could have worked, but I doubt that there was any conscious setup. So it's innovation could be sometimes as you can be as lucky as throwing thing in the air and hoping what sticks. That would be one way that we've seen. Or the other way would be, okay, I want to make it consciously happen, and this is the reason why I want to do it. And my 10-year vision for an innovation is this. So that is kind of like how I view the current innovation. And still, I hear some stories about consumers back in Middle East have not been in that region until 2018 who are still affirmed to the way that innovations have been done right and wrong over the past 15, 20 years.
That's a great point, Ines. Like innovation is like you can plan it out and you can have a strategy, but I mean the whole point of innovation is you're always learning. You just never know what's going to take off, and some things could surprise you. But I think it's a matter of having that open mind to say, it's interesting. People are got like a brand affinity for this for Kellogg's because it's this father of the rooster. Oh, okay, we need to go with that because that's what the market is telling us. So you have to take those insights and be mindful about picking up those indicators to know.
Yeah.
But I want to talk a little bit more about like your category management side of the thing of the business, because it's like that's hard insights, hard data. Like how do you use that hard data to say, hey, this is the next market for us? Like how could you approach that? Like where if you're looking at sales data for Tim Tam in North America before it's even there, like how would you, what would be some things that you would look for to say that this is something that we should like what kind of indicators are we looking for?
Yeah, I think it goes beyond category management. Category management is all about helping the retailers think about, let me change that, right? Let's empathize with our retailers, right? So if I am a category manager at a retailer or I'm a category advisor advising them, what is that I will be looking for brands outside of my current assortment offering that I think would make more sense to me. So a lot goes into that, right? So it would go into my category strategy. I would be thinking about, okay, I have Tim Tam. Let's talk about biscuits. Let's start snacking overall, right? And I want to grow my snacking category by X percentage points. These are the brands that I'm carrying right now. And this is something that I think the data is telling me is doing really well outside of my domain. I'm seeing it being sold in Trump stores. I'm seeing it sold in dollar stores. People are talking about it on TikTok, right? It makes sense to have it. So let me just bring it in for 15, 20% of my stores and give it a shot. I'm going to place it on there. I will probably publish it on my, e-commerce website, and I will let the brand buy into my retail media to advertise a little bit. Let's see where this goes. And once that actually makes sense and it's done really well, I will expand it to the entire store assortment. So that is one way of looking at different product categories that are very low risk oriented, right? I mean, there's no major risk in it. I mean, most of the major big box retailers have got a very good agreement with their suppliers on credit terms, on pullouts, in case the product doesn't work, etc. So that's one way of doing it. The other way could be that I now I've completely switched myself from being a grocery player to a convenience player. Now I go like, okay, what is the latest thing that's happening right now in the market, right? What is the big innovation that kids are talking about? What is the next big force trend that is setting the world on fire, right? So I will proactively reach out to that product manufacturer and say, hey, why don't you give this to me as a means of creating an inroad for you in the market? I will give you exclusivity for a few months, and then you can do whatever you want with it. And I'm going to just advertise the crap out of it and say, hey, this is exclusive at my store. Come in and buy it, right? So that's another way of looking at innovation. But again, that goes down to that whole thing about shooting, throwing stuff on the wall and hoping it sticks and then it sticks. And then there's a third way of doing innovation. That would be mindful innovation, that brands would be doing it, that they would be looking into the changing societal norms, the cultures, the affinities, the emerging consumer needs, and then creating products around that, right? And that goes so beyond just category management. That would be the brand team coming in with their 60/40 studies, with their Nielsen audits, or the Circana audits, you might call it in the US, and looking at, okay, what is the big landscape? They'll be reaching out to third-party data providers. There are many out there, and insights companies are not telling, okay, this is the next big thing that's happening on. If I'm a skincare company, this is what the future of skincare looks like. These are the different regimens that our consumers and shoppers are looking for, and this is what your assortment is. So you tell us what you want to go do with it, right? And then brands have to take many different ideas into account. They have to look at the priorities. Are we a mainstream player? Are we a premium player? Do we want to give our shoppers a $50 product offering? when they buy $10 right now. So how does that go into the story? How does that work with us, right? So coming back to my example from skincare, like one of the major things when I worked on the desk was, mainstreaming of premiums. So over the past 5, 10 years, you've seen like things like retinol and glycolic acid and vitamin C, serums and capsules. These are becoming like mainstream things, right? We previously associated with them with like really, really high-end brands, but now you can walk the aisle. The L'Oreals of the world and the Neutrogenas of the world are doing such a great job at it. So that only came through by innovating on purpose, right? So that was retrospectively looking at what are the trends going on right now and how do we commercialize it. So business in its very essence is just about it's not rocket science over it. You see a need, you fulfill a need, and you make some money out of it. That's how you do it, right? And this is going to change. Maybe tomorrow all the serums may go out of fashion and people start talking about clean labels and clean skincare, and then there might be a completely turnaround of the category. So innovation is an iterative process. In summary, it really goes to how the consumer and the shoppers are behaving. And if you connect it back to what I was saying, you talked about how our market's different, and I said markets are different in exactly the same ways that consumers and shoppers are different. So innovation goes back to the same cycle. If your consumer wants something and you're able to give them, through your product offering, that's kudos to you. And you are the one who's making the heads in that category.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. It does come down to that consumer need and the consumer telling you exactly what they want and you listening, right? It's just it is that simple, but yeah, we do kind of overcomplicate it for sure. And I like what you were talking about too, as far as like, how you kind of start with innovation. It's not going all out and saying, hey, let's put this in all of our stores and let's make all of our labels clean today. Like if you were thinking about like taking a skincare product and making a clean label, you probably start off by trying a new line and not just revamping your mainstay, your core items. So make a new product, test it out in a small area, a small market, and see how it goes and get your consumer feedback to learn from that. So it is just that simple of testing and learning and continuing to build on it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I was just thinking about one more example that came to my mind about, how do consumers and shoppers differ, and perhaps you can edit this to fit in the previous question, but I mean, if I ask you, Pepsi, what is the biggest brand in Saudi Arabia or the Middle East? Let's stick with Saudi Arabia. What is the biggest brand of Pepsi beverages that is in Saudi Arabia? What would your answer be?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to go with the layman answer. I think I say Pepsi. But what is it?
It is not. It is not. It's not even something that you sell in North America, right? It is Mirinda Citrus.
Yes, I've heard of it.
So, what's the story? I mean, like, I was surprised. I mean, I was bamboozled myself the first day on job, and I was like, oh, Pepsi, the Black Cola. I mean, that is the one that, everybody would be going for, right? But I come in and I say, the biggest selling brand is Mirinda, and the biggest selling SKU is Mirinda Citrus. Like, how does it work, right? And it goes to what people eat in that country, right? So, a big fast food over there is something we call chicken and rice. Like, that's the best way to explain it. It's basically called mandi. And I mean, for that kind of food, you need something citrusy, something a little sweet and sour. And that's where the Mirinda Citrus comes in. And that we were selling that so much more than we were selling Pepsi Cola, right? And then it goes for you to show, like, that was something that you wouldn't find in other markets, but you would find in Saudi Arabia. And through going back to those studies about how do we innovate, like going back to the 60/40 studies, going back to the UNA studies, the usage and attitude studies, you really find out, okay, this is going to work, let's bring it in, and then there was some innovation over there. Again, innovation, as you mentioned, could be as simple as making a product clean label, taking out the sulfates and the parabens from a beauty product, to introducing something completely new in a brand, or introducing a big new brand. It just goes down to what are the consumers asking for today.
I want to just go down the road a little bit further here. Now, in your title on LinkedIn, what really piqued my curiosity was that underneath your title of strategist, it also said something about retail evolution. So what exactly is retail evolution? And tell me, where are we going? Like, where's the evolution going to?
Yeah. So it goes back to, how we view category management as, a Catman industry. it is, as you may know, that Catman rule has got certain definitions. So Catman 2.0 and Catman 3.0. The difference between 2.0 and 3.0 is, if you go back to the website, is that how we're going to be incorporating the omni experience into category management essential. So retail evolution is a mouthful, but it only means that keeping it even with how the shoppers are shopping, right? So when our retailers start talking about endless aisles and they start talking about retail media, start talking about data, different products that they can offer. It's so about like we have to bring the category management mindset to not just how we are shelving products or devising the placement strategies in the store, but also thinking about how shoppers shop online. And that could be in more than one ways. It could be the 3P experience, it could be the 1P experience, it could be the home delivery experience, or it could be the quick commerce experience in certain companies or certain countries for that matter. So that's what retail evolution means. It's about really staying ahead of the curve when it comes to understanding and anticipating how are our shoppers behaving in retail. It could be about channel shifting or the trips migrating from grocery to club, and really making those conscious choices that are going to help our brands and the categories. Or from the retailer's perspective, when we advise on their category, how would it shape differently, right? So a simple example could be the impulsivity of purchase in one channel being increased for a particular brand or a category versus another. And how do we change the SKU mix to match that? That could be one way of talking about retail evolution. The other way I talked about was maybe tomorrow's people start buying their skincare regimen online and there's a more of a dollar shave club kind of experience where they're ordering from e-stores such as Amazon, and the shelves are okay. What do you do with it, right? Maybe shoppers feel like coming to the stores and then seeing a catalog instead of the shelf and just placing orders online and getting it full. So that is when category management is not going to go anywhere, even though the situations are so different. So maybe the 1980s, 90s category management is all about opening up your JD and planogramming, and that's it. But now it's way beyond that. Right now, when you talk about online presence, you talk about the core principles of availability, findability, and visibility. Your search algorithms, your search engine optimization, everything comes into place. So how do we help our category come up and come into the consideration of shoppers when they're buying it on the retailer website? So that is also part of retail evolution.
It makes a lot of sense, and it's like there's more of a holistic approach. It seems like to me, right, where it's the evolution is not just thinking about one particular channel or one particular touch point along a journey, but all the different touch points along a journey, and how do we put the interconnective tissue between all of them, because we aren't that simple. It isn't about just, I want to get a candy bar, I'm going to go to the store and get a candy bar and open it up, eat it, and bring it home or whatever. It's much more complicated than that, right? So it's just, it's great that we're thinking about that within our evolution. So I was thinking about like that evolution piece of it, like where are we going to be in 10 years from now? Do you have have you started like to predict the future a little bit and figure out what should we expect to see?
Yeah. Well, you never know, right? Like, I think the best way to answer that question is how are we different today from 2014, right? So that's the question that we can ask ourselves, and the answer is that more ways than one. Some in the 10 year span, many things came, many things went through, right? Like the rise of e-commerce is one example. Like e-commerce has been around since the turn of the century. It's nothing new, right? Like, but like the way we experience e-commerce or the omni-channel experience during the pandemic and the way it kind of like frizzled out, but also stuck in many categories, right? But going back to my current world, still shoppers are going into stores, still they're buying their candies in store. Skincare people have got like the online experience, but still they can, the brick and mortar store is still very relevant. I think that a lot of what we will see in 10 years will be fundamentally the same. Shoppers will still go out to the stores. The brick and mortars are not going anywhere. I mean, there will be a lot of infrastructure, infrastructure relation on their end. However, a lot of the changes will work in the back end. I think AI is one example, right? So automation of supply chain is another big thing. Many companies are already looking at how they're forecasting the demand and what role could artificial intelligence play into that. So a lot of the change that we're going to be talking about is the way people are operating in the back end and how retailers are optimizing in terms of their profits, right? Like they want to make more, but they want to um, kill the shopper experience. The shopper experience will be dictated by the shoppers, and where that goes is anybody's guess. Like if 10 years, last 10 years are a barometer, like we have seen many different shopper behaviors in these 10 years, right? Like again, I don't think the world will be undergoing another pandemic very soon, but hopefully not. But fingers crossed. But the way it played out, it was very, very different from what anybody ever expected. Had a lot of butterfly effect across supply chains for many brands. Impacted the innovation life cycle a lot. Many things came, many things went out. Many innovations that were on track to be delivered got shelved because of it. And it's just now that we're completely recovering from supply chain effects of it, and the profitability impact of those changes was unimaginable. And we were just like dealing with things as they came along. But overall, I think shoppers will continue to go into brick and mortar stores. They will continue to search everything online, and that's where the generative AI or online assistant tools are going to help us as shoppers. It's going to be interesting for sure, and that's where we have to go back to the fundamentals of what we do as a profession. We help shoppers shop the best way possible, and that best way is going to be defined by them over the next 10 years. We just have to make sure that we are in tune and we're listening to them and making those little changes that will help us protect the bottom line as well as create amazing shopping experiences for our customers in the long run.
So I'm hearing two sides of the coin here, where it's like you have to think about the optimization piece of it for your operations and make sure that we are fine tuning, making sure that we're not wasting any money, making sure that we're selling as much as we can by leveraging these new tools that we have that may be AI related. But then that other side is, making sure that we are staying in tune with the consumer and following their lead. So it totally makes sense. And I could definitely make sense for the future as well. What are some ways that you would recommend to people listening today on how to follow that consumer? Like, what should we be doing to stay in touch?
Wow, that's a great
another
question,
episode,
right?
sure.
That's another. I think it's not as difficult as we think it is, right? It's about being informed. There used to be a time when it was very structured. Like you had to subscribe to a marketing magazine and get that issue delivered to you every month. Be part of associations. That is still very important, right? Being part of associations is, I think, very important now as well, because we can no longer afford to think in silos. So I would recommend being connected with your industry partners, with your peers, join everything we do, right? And learn from so many other people in the room that can contribute to your understanding much better than working for a single organization at one time can, right? We need all the information and the perspectives that we can gather. So that's the quickest and the easiest and the best way to do it. The other thing is that you need to invest in the resources that your brand has access to. So think about how do you get news about shopper behavior. It could be a household panel. It could be just the point of sales data that you're subscribing to. So really keep a tab on what you're seeing in the market right now. And just one fallacy over here is that a big watch out is that sometimes we define our worlds too small for us. That's, I think, something that happens when you work in brands, that my target audience is X, Y, and Z store, and then I'm just going to think about what's happening in them, and there I'm number one. It's not just about that. It's about consumption moments change with shoppers, might be, let's say, substituting your product or your category with another. So you need to understand this. So if the total pie is shrinking, you're not better off just because you've got 90% of it. Like, you're going to lose your business in the long run. So it's about also empathizing with your consumer and your shopper and really living into that, and put yourself into the shopper shoes all the time, and think about it. Think as a consumer, think as a shopper, and I try to also reflect on how we're making these decisions to anticipate what our categories could be influenced by it along.
Advice on this, and I think like one of the things that is like so important to me, being in the shoes of the shopper and making sure you spend some time with them. the big data is important. It's good to have that information, third-party research, absolutely. But just spending time in the home or in the store with a consumer is so valuable. It's one of my favorite things to do is to spend time in the homes of consumers and bringing executives in. My clients, like, and I will go into the home of a consumer, sit on their couch, listen to exactly what they're talking about. And it's amazing how it can just completely open up your eyes to what's really happening in the world. And it gets you out of like that bias that you're in. Like you mentioned, like what's like, we're only going to focus on these stores right here because that's our target audience. But meanwhile, when you sit on that couch in that one living room, all of a sudden your mind just blows, and it could be so much more than that. So
Yeah.
great advice. But my recommendation is that every single leader should be spending some time in their home with consumers, like once a month, just once every month, just be in a couple of homes, and it'll do you so good, so much good.
Yeah, I have an example to share on that one actually.
Yeah.
At Nestle, we used to have this methodology called group shopper observations, right? So GSOs we used to call them, and that originated somewhere in Europe at that time. It was all about your colleagues going to the store and creating a shopper funnel just by one person standing at the entrance of the store, one person standing at the entrance of the aisle, one person standing, timing the shopper. And yeah, if you're just like you're CIA, you're just like observing, you're just like doing this operation, and then we started implementing that in several events, and that was so revealing. Like the kind of innovations we could come up with, right? You talk about mindful innovation, it doesn't need to be a new product launch. There's millions of dollars behind. It could be something very simple. So, for example, one of my retailers was going through a decline in a certain category, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna just like shut it down, like take 4 feet away, give it to another one, right?" And we're like, "Okay, hold on, let us help you. Let us go down there. Let us check out what is exactly what's bothering the shopper. Like, why is it going down?" And then we go down there and we observe the shopper. Then we notice that they're spending 90 seconds on the shelf to find the product that other categories are finding in 30 seconds. So what's going on over here? And then we found out, we just did some exit interviews, came out about the shelving strategy and the findability of that product. And our solution, our innovation was just as simple as putting up a stacking shelving unit. That's it, right? And then the shoppers would be able to find it. We planogram the whole thing. It stored very nicely, even when they were out of stock. They know that it's out of stock. They won't be like putting their hands at the back of the shelf to find the product and spending time and getting walking frustrated. And that led to like double-digit, increase in business over the next 6 months. So think about innovation in very, very simple ways, right? It doesn't have to be something that is that you need to, just create and be conscious about creating. It's just that one aha moment that you can include in your current world without, involving many different layers of organizational authority, and just roll with it, right? So we can be innovative every day that we work in the domain that we're working for.
That's a great story. I love that. And just spending time in the stores opened up, a key observation. That's a 90 seconds at the shelf space when it's 30 in other categories. That's a huge insight. And wow, what a game changer. That's awesome. And thank you so much. Is there any last words of advice that you would like to give leaders before we wrap up today?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, going back to the point about, industry groups, I think that's very important. And I would just say that be generous with your time, connect with your peers and other organizations, of course, within the confines of all the laws that we have to follow as individuals, all the rules, etc. But it's really important to reach out and create a community, right? At the end of the day, brands and retailers, we are in it for the same purpose. We are not just here to compete, but also to help our businesses grow. So think about how we can end up doing it and what our legacy in this domain could be. So I will just leave them with that thought, that it could look very different for every individual in any different capacity. But yeah, overall, we need to be conscious of what are we going to leave behind in order to make sure that the retail journey continues for the global brands and leaders.
I couldn't end the episode any better than that. So that's awesome. All boats rise with the tide. So beautiful message. Thank you so much for coming on to the show today, sharing your knowledge and helping us rise that tide. So much appreciation to you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt, for having me. And, looking forward to working with you on the journey even further. So I'm glad that we have this solution.
Same here as well. And please don't forget, everyone, to connect with Anes on LinkedIn. His link will be in the show notes, so you'll have access to that. Connect, have a conversation and learn from each other, man. So thank you all. Have a great day. And thanks for joining the episode today on Innovate on Purpose.
We have made it to the end of another episode. Thank you for tuning in. A couple of things before you go. If you have found value in this episode, I am sure you'll find value in what we have coming up. So please subscribe so you will have access and know when we launch the next episode. Also, leave a review. The more reviews we have, the further our reach becomes, and I truly want this to be heard by as many leaders as possible. Don't hog this all for yourself. I would love to hear your insights on this topic, so meet me on social media at Matt Mueller Innovation on LinkedIn and Instagram. And lastly, if you want to learn more about my story and what I can do for you and your company, go to themindfulinnovator.com. I would love to help you innovate on purpose. Until next time, just remember, bring a level of awareness to each conversation, each observation, each moment, and you can create great change in this world. Thank you.